Prince William has had a very emotionally exhausting few months, and from everything sources are saying, it's only going to get worse from here. There's a story developing inside Buckingham Palace right now that honestly feels like it's been building for 3 decades. It revolves around the woman who fractured a royal marriage, the woman who spent half her life maneuvering into the heart of the British monarchy. But the dynamic has fundamentally shifted. Last week, a critical communication took place regarding the contents of certain palace files. It lasted less than 10 minutes. Short, precise, and according to sources, the kind of conversation someone has when they've already made the decision. Sources say this was not an isolated incident. Sources describe a growing sense of panic among senior staff who realize that the old rules no longer apply. According to sources, the documentation discovered touches on decades of internal palace strategy. Sources suggest that that call, brief as it was the first move in something much bigger. For years, Prince William remained silent, choosing institutional duty over personal grievances. He did it out of respect for his father and out of a deep-seated commitment to the stability of the crown. But his motivation now is driven by something much deeper than mere compliance. It is driven by legacy protection, by a sense of historical justice, and by the memory of his late mother. Now, Camilla finds herself facing a reality she did not anticipate. She spent decades navigating the court, accumulating influence, and securing her position as queen. So why now? Why, after years of quiet acceptance, has William decided to draw a line in the sand? Sources say the answer has 2 parts, and you need both of them to understand what's actually going on here. The first part comes down to a fundamental shift in institutional power. Prince William now controls the Duchy of Cornwall, an estate encompassing over 130,000 acres of land and assets valued at over £1 billion. All of it under William's direct control. No consultation required, no approval needed from anyone else. He has already begun using this authority. The moment William took over the estate, certain names closely tied to the Queen's personal circle stopped appearing on the financial records. No public dispute, no statement, just gone. That decision sent a message that didn't need any translation. Royal commentators picked up on it immediately and noted it was causing significant ripples inside the palace. Furthermore, sources suggest Catherine approved completely, standing firmly behind a strategy that reclaims control over the royal household's future direction. The second part is anchored to a profound historical tragedy. August 31st, 1997, will soon mark 30 years since the Princess of Wales lost her life in Paris. 30 years since a young prince had to walk behind his mother's coffin in front of the entire world. He's now a father of 3, a man fully established in public life, and in all his years of public service, he has never once made a direct statement connecting his feelings about Camilla to his feelings about what his mother went through. His actions have been making that statement consistently for years. Sources say William reached a point where he was done. It's done allowing institutional loyalty to override private conviction. This brings us back to the hidden assets inside the palace. The family has access to something that is now making certain people inside Buckingham Palace genuinely nervous. There is a room at Windsor Castle called the Royal Archives. No tourists, no documentary crews, no public access. What it contains is the unfiltered, unedited, privately recorded history of the British royal family. Letters, diaries, internal correspondence, the written record of what was actually happening inside the institution during the most turbulent decades. What exactly is in those archives that certain people allegedly do not want surfacing right now? The broad strokes are already public knowledge. The public separation, the leaked tapes, the standard television interviews. All of that is documented, analyzed, and debated. What sources suggest is in those archives goes far beyond the broad strokes. It's the specificity, the private contemporaneous written record of who knew what, when they knew it, who facilitated the breakdown of the marriage, and how the palace apparatus worked behind the scenes. Camilla's situation inside the palace structure is deteriorating. And William has been using his financial and administrative control with a precision that people inside the Queen's circle are only now fully appreciating. Access to crown events, proximity to official royal occasions. Invitations that had previously been extended to members of Camilla's wider family network have been quietly withdrawn. Appearances where her relatives had expected to be present have been restructured without explanation. Nothing that generates a headline on its own. It's everything that adds up to something unmistakable when you step back and look at the full picture. Symbols matter immensely in this world. When Camilla walked into Westminster Abbey for the coronation, wearing the modified Queen Mary crown, it was a statement, a carefully chosen signal of permanent status. But that crown will one day sit on Catherine's head as Queen Consort. When that happens, the symbolic transfer will be so total and so unmistakable that everything Camilla's moment represented will effectively be overwritten. Look at the patronage shifts as well. When Queen Elizabeth died, the crown held hundreds of royal patronages. The redistribution of those patronages among working royals has been ongoing since 2022. Sources suggest William has allegedly been involved in certain patronage decisions in ways that have quietly shaped that redistribution, ensuring the future architecture of the firm aligns with his vision, not the past. The changes extend to her personal security and holdings. She sold Ray Millhouse, her long-term private estate. No press release, no lifestyle magazine feature, no carefully managed announcement, just a property that appeared on the market and disappeared from her portfolio. People do not sell their personal sanctuaries casually. They do not part with the one place that belongs entirely to them unless something has shifted fundamentally in how they see their own future. Right now, Camilla moves through multiple royal residences as a matter of course. That picture changes completely when the reign transitions. Properties pass automatically to William. Buckingham Palace becomes William's primary residence. Sources suggest her likely long-term inheritance consists of a modest trust and limited access to secondary residences valued at approximately £30 million. Significant assets by any normal measure, but completely inadequate as a substitute for the position she currently occupies. She would go from a reigning queen with the full weight of the monarchy behind her to a dowager figure, living in residences at the discretion of a man who grew up watching what she did to his mother. The family network is being systematically dismantled. Key allies have been removed from the palace payroll. Access to specific royal spaces is allegedly finished. Her family's broader proximity to crown events is quietly narrowing. Sources suggest William is dismantling it piece by piece with a patience and thoroughness that speaks to genuine long-term intent rather than temporary frustration. Even external relationships are facing scrutiny. When a controversial associate's name appeared in separate high-profile legal documents, William made his position completely clear. Sources suggest the ultimatum was direct: distance the family from the association publicly and permanently, or accept the consequences. Camilla has not fully complied, viewing the sudden ending of long-term social ties as both personally impossible and fundamentally unfair. William views her continued hesitation as evidence of exactly the kind of judgment failure that justifies his concerns. King Charles finds himself caught in an impossible position. He made a phone call to William recently that sources describe as one of the most difficult conversations between the two men in decades. Not angry, not accusatory, quiet and pained. The king is managing significant health challenges while maintaining his public duties with genuine discipline. But discipline is not the same as strength. Protecting Camilla's long-term position would mean telling William to restore access and privileges. William would not comply, and the king knows it. It would mean telling Catherine to alter her approach. Catherine would not comply, and the king knows that too. Is the man who conducted the affair that Diana described in terms of profound personal devastation, is the reason that grief exists. How do you argue against your son's grief over his mother when you are the reason that grief exists in the first place? There's a version of this story that looks like simple revenge. Two brothers, or a son and a daughter-in-law, systematically dismantling everything. Camilla built as payback for what she did to Diana. And there's another version that looks like something more considered and more lasting than revenge. Sources suggest the second version is closer to the truth. Simple revenge would look like Camilla being publicly humiliated, stripped of everything in one dramatic moment. That is not what sources describe William as building. Think about what Diana actually stood for. Not the fairy tale image, but the real substance of what she did. She touched AIDS patients when the establishment was still treating the disease as something shameful. She walked through active minefields to make a political point about weapons killing civilians. She sat with homeless people and looked them in the eye and treated them as fully human in a way that senior royals simply were not supposed to do. She did all of this against the active resistance of an institution that found her emotional directness threatening and her popularity destabilizing. She was right about all of it. The institution was wrong. Now, William runs the estate and prepares for the throne. Sources suggest William's modernization agenda is not simply good management practice. It is Diana expressed institutionally. The emotional intelligence she was told was inappropriate. The public accountability she was told was dangerous. The genuine human connection she was told was beneath the dignity of a senior royal. All of it allegedly being built into the very architecture of the monarchy William is constructing. Catherine's contribution runs parallel. Decades of quiet, genuinely impactful work in early childhood development that represents a living argument against performative royalty. The exact argument Diana made and paid everything to make. Here's what sources suggest Camilla is slowly and painfully coming to understand. She won the battle. She got the man. She got the title. She got the coronation, the tiara, and the seat beside the king. But the war was never about Charles. It was about Diana and what Diana represented. Whether the institution Diana tried to change would eventually become something worthy of the price she paid. William and Catherine are allegedly building that institution now, not for revenge, but for Diana. And Camilla has no counter-strategy for that. You cannot argue against a legacy. You cannot litigate grief. You cannot outmaneuver a son who watched his mother die and spent decades deciding quietly and deliberately what to do about it. Diana never got to see what this monarchy could become. She got a Paris tunnel, 2 boys left without a mother, and a palace that barely lowered its flag. But sources suggest something is happening inside that palace right now that she never lived to see. Her son moving forward, quietly and permanently. Reshaping everything Camilla built into something Diana would have recognized as hers. Not revenge. Something better than revenge. Legacy. And that, more than any property dispute or payroll decision or symbolic tiara, is what sources describe as Camilla's darkest reality in decades.